Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Tech Talk. I'm your host, Jeff Hootselle. I'm the Chief Cloud Officer for Auditmacs. If you guys know and you've tuned into the show in the past, Tech Talk is all about, we talk to IT leaders from across the country in a variety of different topics, but we always talk to really interesting folks. Today is actually no different. We're obviously going to hone in and talk about the world of cybersecurity today, and we've got a great guest. Derly Gutierrez from DerlyG Consulting is going to join us today from Plano, Texas. So DerlyG, thanks for jumping on and joining us today.
Well, thanks, Jeff, for having me on. I appreciate it.
So Derly, so you've obviously got a pretty deep and kind of wide-ranging background in the world of security. I know you got 22 plus years of both military and private sector experience. So obviously, thank you for your service, first of all. But talk a little bit about your philosophy as it comes to kind of the world of cybersecurity today and your approach.
Well, thanks for your appreciation for me and all the veterans out there. My approach to cybersecurity is very simplistic, starting at the high level. You really want to understand what's the goals and the intent and break those down into security requirements. I don't really lean towards any one model. I use hybrids of, SASBA and NIST and other best practices in order to help an organization meet its security goals or compliance requirements.
Yeah, so I know one of the things you're really passionate about, and you think maybe overlooked, is that the enterprise kind of security architecture, and that being, a foundational, aspect of a company strategy. Let's talk a little bit about that, and what are the kind of the elements there that you really try and focus in on?
Yeah, so security architecture is one of those domains I stayed in the longest out of all the domains as I made my way from admin engineer on up. And even though I've worked as a VCSO or just a senior director in some organizations, enterprise security architecture is something I try to mentor and advocate for because I feel like it's the black sheep of the cybersecurity, information security career field. It's not appreciated as much as being a SOC manager or seen as important as application security today. And I think it's a missed opportunity because of its importance to the CISO and the senior management of having that detailed understanding of where's security from a strategic standpoint within the organization and how it's implemented throughout the whole organization and securing that data regardless of where it goes.
Yeah, so if you were giving advice to an IT manager, a CISO, a CIO on kind of building their initial strategy out for their company when it comes to security, or maybe refining their approach, what would be the couple pieces of advice you would give them as they're getting started?
First, everything's important, right? There's no one area of security that is going to help you really shine or meet your objective of keeping the bad guys out of your house. So, you'll see a lot of articles where it says, put a wall around the data, put a wall around this or that, right? The endpoint or the network environment. It's all important. Your weakest link is what's going to need to be exploited, where it's the end user or your network or the cloud. So it's all important, and all aspects of controls are important. A lot of times, there's administrative technology and physical controls. If your physical controls are weak and I'm able to get inside your house and physically access the server, I just bypass your $300 million worth of security on the technical control side. So it's all important. Two is the businesses you work for, unless it's a DoD or a security company, didn't really get in business to do security, right? So you got to really map everything back to the business goals. And that's what I love about SASBA. It really focuses on not so much the architecture, like reference architecture and patterns, but more on how to sell that message of mapping those business and mission objectives back to business goals for security and then specific attributes for the security program.
Yeah, is that a challenge right now? I mean, I think, I put this almost in a similar categories like disaster recovery at times, right? Where it's until you've really been hit and impacted by it and feel the brunt and the damage that can be done by having an issue or an outage or an exposure, something like this. Is it hard to get the business to take it seriously and really invest in that? And how do you convey that message to get them to prioritize the dollars and the time and the mental energy to build this approach when they've never maybe had an issue in the past?
Yeah, it is, especially if it's a smaller company with a very limited budget and a low maturity level, right? Trying to justify even if it's a one-person security architecture team, is very challenging because they don't see the value. But again, I try to map it back to the security goal for the business, which may be to meet a certain best practice or compliance requirement that requires a security architecture lifecycle process within the company. I also tend to use like a good security architect as a right hand for a CISO, because they understand the big picture. They're able to communicate to the business and to the tech guys, right? Whether it's the application security guys or the SOC, or the network infrastructure guys. So there's a lot of value to it. It's usually, when it comes to security architecture planning, you can relate it a lot to the goals of various security roadmap planning and solution projects. They're going to help you manage a lot of those and make sure that the technical controls and the projects are staying in place and everyone understands that big picture and working with those line of business and key stakeholders within the business to meet those goals for you.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I'm interested in, you get so much advice. Just like you mentioned before, there's so many articles about the right way to approach this and what's most important and, where you should spend your time and money when it comes to cybersecurity. I mean, what's some bad advice that you commonly see out there today that you would kind of warn people about following when they're looking at this field?
I think in general, everyone thinks that security is about technology, and it's not. Security is really a business operational issue and more culture issue. Just like IT and some other lines of business, if your business doesn't value certain activities, if they're not reviewing risk, there's nothing the technical controls are going to do to secure you. And there's more than technical controls about cybersecurity. So I find myself having to educate a lot of people in trying to do that trusted advisor influencer type work to let senior management understand that. It's better now than where it was 5 or 6 years ago when I actually wrote an article about this subject. You're seeing improvements, but there's still that, especially with C-suite that are a little bit older, that they just still think today that you can throw in $1 million firewall and a couple of blinky lights and it's going to solve your problems. And there's a lot more to security than just that.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think it's, education seems to be a key across the board, whether it's, getting your end users up to speed or just thinking about the overall approach that you would take on this. So, if people want to find out more about your company and what you guys do and your thoughts on it, I know you've got some great stuff. You got a YouTube channel with some great videos out there. Where else can people find more about you and your company?
Yeah, I'm looking to restart my YouTube channel here in the next 6 months once I get fully settled in. I just moved here from New York, but you can always go to my LinkedIn page and also reach out to me at DerlyG.com on my website.
That's awesome. Derly, thanks so much for joining us today, man. It's been great to talk to you about the cybersecurity world and some of the things you guys are doing at DerlyG. So folks, go check him out there and see what he's up to on his YouTube channel when they relaunch here. Thank you guys for joining as well. If you want to check out more interviews like this, you can go to Auditmacs.com. We have a full library, over 100 plus interviews there. Love to have you check them out, and we're looking forward to seeing you on the next one.